Good morning. Sage Sue back for another Age Thrive video, all about aging well and owning our aging in positive, empowering, and meaningful ways. Hope you all been doing good. It's getting closer to Thanksgiving now. It's amazing how fast a year's going by. I wanted to talk about a topic today that actually was sparked by a series at my church. Every fall in our church, they do a series called Adventures in Faith, and they called it Navigating Through Uncertain Times for this fall. And I love that they used nautical symbols for this. The lifesaver, the anchor, the compass, and the nautical wheel. I started a monthly Age Well group at my church a few months ago, and so I decided to bring in these symbols into what I'm calling our adventures in aging well during uncertain times, which is very true when we look at later life. It's an uncertain time for many of us. We know how we'd like it to play out, but it often is an unknown terrain. So being able to navigate through this time is so important. So I love these symbols. I'm going to talk about a couple of them today, the anchor and the lifesaver. Let's talk about the lifesaver first and kind of think about how we can bring this into our aging well experience. When I was at my pool class this week, on Tuesday, I noticed the lifesaver on the side. You know, I've never seen it used, but it's always there when water is around us because you never know when we might need to throw that lifesaver out and help somebody. Well, the same for us. We need to make sure we have our lifesavers close by. Now, last month, we talked about the whole idea of widening our community as we age, calling it one of the fall to-do list items for us. And the biggest reason for this is what I've learned over time is the best thing in life to hold on to is each other. Nothing compares with having support nearby and around us, people that we can call on for help and assistance, like lifesavers at times of need for us. Again, we hope we don't need to do it on a regular basis, but we want to make sure it's there when we need it. And so to really focus on that area. If you want to learn more about this, I'd recommend going back to the last video I created a few weeks ago where I talk exclusively about a couple of other fall to-do lists, but mainly the idea of widening our community and our support network and fostering that as we grow out in time. The other one that I really want to zero in on today for symbolism for aging well in uncertain times is the anchor. Let's talk about this a little bit. We are in certain times and, look at the world around us, but also again with our aging experience. And one of the first things I think a lot of people think of as an anchor for themselves is the whole idea of faith over fear, is really strengthening our faith. It's one reason why I joined a church community again a few years ago. I had fostered a personal faith, what I consider a strong personal faith in my life, but I needed that communal faith experience for me, broadening my community, but also strengthening the faith that I have and trust that I have, that there is a higher good at work. We can bring a lot of secular practices into anchoring. If we think about anchoring ourselves and kind of staying on an even keel, which they talked about in our Adventures in Faith series at church, there are a lot of secular practices that we can bring into our lives that can anchor us well too. These include things like music, reading, exercise of all kinds, maybe cooking, maybe conversation with friends and neighbors, dancing. I was back at Zumba class last night. Dancing is a very centering, anchoring practice for me. Puzzles. And think of other things that kind of, when you're involved in them, they kind of anchor you, kind of get you grounded and in a better place, and maybe get you distracted from some of the outside chaos in the world. I also brought in my Aging Well meetup group last week a couple of ideas from this classic book, The Joy of Old, by Murphy and Hudson. This book was published in 1995, and it's one of the first tools and resources I found when I went back to my aging work exclusively in the late 90s. And there were a couple of images from that book that I have held onto this whole time. And what they call them in the book are really valuable second half of life shifts. And so anytime really from age 40, 50 on, these are things that we can start bringing in more fully into our lives and our daily practices. One is this whole idea of shifting from living from the outside in to living from the inside out. So living from our centers in a place hopefully is far more grounded than maybe the world around us at times. And it's something that really can benefit us when we go through rough seas with our own aging experiences. I know last year when I was going through, and that's just a year ago, my whole herniated disc issue and being flat on my back on the couch for days on end at times, I really had to ground myself from the inside. I couldn't focus on the pain and my frustration with what I couldn't do in the world. I had to come from my center. So it's a good place to go and really drive things from the inside out. I think it's one of the great gifts of aging that we get to do this. The other one that they bring into play is the whole idea of going and growing down and deeper in elderhood. They talk about youth, how we grow up. They talk about midlife, where we kind of grow out and expand our lives. And then the opportunity in elderhood to, again, growing down and deeper. Now, this could be our faith. This could be centering ourselves more. But this idea of kind of deepening, and I'd say getting in touch more with who we are now and what's right for us now, and continuing to discern that with some practices. There are a lot of practices, again, that we can bring in to, again, anchor us. You could also call it enhancing peace and contentment within our lives. And these include practices like just spending some time in quiet and solitude every day, prayer, meditation, journaling, a big practice of mine that I've been doing for over 20 years, or just reflection and going within. Also maybe yoga or Tai Chi, those kind of practices that are, again, more centering forms of exercise. And I love this, that a lot of people say, well, I don't have time for that. Well, consider this time well wasted. Anything we can do to enhance peace and contentment inside of us is worth its weight in gold. And I love this quote, and I used this in my group last week too, this whole quote about peace. Peace, it does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. And that's what we're really going after with anchoring, is enhancing far more peace and contentment within us so that we can navigate through rough seas no matter what's going on around us. So we've talked about fall of life to-do items. I would call these fall of life practices. Things to start if you haven't in some way or another, and this again is very personal for each person, but to bring some form of kind of anchoring practice into your life in some form or another. And it is a practice. These are things you have to practice over time. But to bring it in so that we can stay in a really strong place within ourselves each and every day, each and every week, each and every year going forward. And keep remembering, the rest of our life begins now, so don't miss out. These are all things. It doesn't matter if you wish you'd started it 10 years ago. Start today. These are practices that really can benefit thriving with age. I'm going to throw in one other quick thing before I wrap up today. For those of you who are ARP members, AARP, the recent newsletter had an excellent article about the whole future of aging. And I don't always think their stuff is top-notch, but this series and cover story they did was excellent about really giving us an idea of where we are with aging research, with what's maybe coming ahead, with what we can do for ourselves now. So if you have it, make sure you read it. If you don't, maybe find somebody who is an ARP member and get a copy from them or borrow it from them. I think you'll find it really worthwhile reading. Otherwise, you can always find my YouTube videos on @AgeTHRIVE, and you can follow me on Facebook, Let's Thrive with Age. Have a great week. Hope you're all doing well. Let's get strong inside. Let's ground ourselves. And also make sure we've got those lifesavers nearby, okay? See you next time. Bye.